It's no secret that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to address the center position in the 2024 NFL Draft. So today, I only have 5 draft prospects in this entire class at the center position that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should be pursuing during this year's NFL Draft. Before we get into my top draft targets at the center position for the black and gold, our draft coverage is just getting started here from Chat Sports. Make sure you guys go ahead and click that subscribe button right now because we got breaking news coverage every time they make a big move. If they trade for somebody, if they sign somebody in free agency, we got you guys covered. And then for the NFL Draft, we've got these positional rankings, draft targets, in-depth scouting reports, and more just about every single day leading up to the big day in Detroit. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now for the most extensive and free Steelers coverage right here on YouTube. So let's start with my number 1 center this year, which is Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon. And this guy is just bloody fantastic, man. Let me tell you, I have a round 1 grade on Jackson Powers Johnson. That's really the highest I go with a position like center because it is seen as a lower value position. But Powers Johnson has one of the highest grades I've ever given a center prospect, period. You look at the size, he's 6'3", 328 pounds. This guy is big for a center, and not only does he have that size and that power that you look for, but he's got the athleticism. This guy can move people, and he can move himself extremely quickly. Last year with the Oregon Ducks, 84.3 Pro Football Focus grade. That was tops among NCAA centers last year out of almost 300 of them. So this guy is a really, really freaking good player, man. I can't wait to see what his NFL career looks like, and I'd love for him to be a Pittsburgh Steeler because he marriages the power with the athleticism, but also the technique, all right? You don't get that high of a Pro Football Focus grade if you're not doing your job at an extremely high level with high level of technique, and that's exactly what Powers Johnson shows on his film. I think that this guy is easily the number 1 center prospect in this year's NFL Draft, and honestly, this is a good center class, so for him to be atop this kind of chart here and top this class, I think that if you're going to spend a first-round pick on a center, it's probably going to be Jackson Powers Johnson. But as of right now, I will say this right now, I would probably rather go offensive tackle. Now, we'll probably do our offensive tackle draft prospects and draft targets video later on, but, you know, when it comes to the center position, Jackson Powers Johnson is definitely number 1 on my list. And if the Steelers ended up drafting JPJ at number 20 overall, I wouldn't bat an eye one bit. Now, what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Should the Steelers draft Jackson Powers Johnson in round 1 of the 2024 NFL Draft? Simply give me a yes or no for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question with a yes or no. Then my number 2 center on my draft targets list for the Steelers this year is Duke versatile offensive lineman Graham Barton. Now, he played center for the Blue Devils last year. I do have a round 1 grade on him. And Barton really does bring a very nice blend of power with athleticism. I won't say it's on the same level as a Jackson Powers Johnson, but he's 6'5", 314 pounds. And then his Pro Football Focus grade was pretty darn well. It was pretty darn good as well. It's 75.9, so not quite as high as JPJ's, but I do think that Barton, and why he's going to go round 1 is because of the versatility he brings to the table. He can play center, he can play guard, and he can play left tackle even. Now, his arms are maybe a little bit below average, maybe average, so, you know, he's probably not going to be like a high-end left tackle in the league if that's where he ends up playing. But he could be a really damn good center, man, and I think that's probably where he's going to end up. But he's somebody that if there's injuries, if there's a need at a different position, he's versatile. He can move all different types of positions. So if the Steelers feel like they want to get somebody that can play tackle or center and then kind of see how the board shakes out in the later rounds, then this could be a dark horse for the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 20 because of that versatility that he brings to the table. Let's say Amarius Mims, Talisi Fuaga, and Jackson Powers Johnson are all off the board. What do you do then? Do you go with a wide receiver? Do you go with something else? I think in that instance, the Steelers are going to really think long and hard about taking Graham Barton because of the versatility he brings to the table and how much this team really does value the depth and versatility along the offensive line. Now, coming up here, I got more center draft targets for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got 3 left. All I think are going to go in the first 3 rounds of this year's NFL draft. But before we get into that, no matter who ends up getting drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, they're going to be wearing this hat on draft day. This is the official Pittsburgh Steelers 2024 draft hat. And right now, our friends at Fanatics are having a great sale on these draft hats on their website right now. All you have to do is click the link down there in the description or just go to chatsports.com/DH24. That's chatsports.com/DH24 to get a Steelers draft hat officially licensed by the National Football League in your collection today. Number 3 center on my list this year, Zach Frazier from the Mountaineers of West Virginia. I have a round 2 grade on Zach, but honestly, guys, I think this guy's going to be a really darn good center in the league, and right away. I do have a day 1 starter designation on Frazier. He's 6'3", 310 pounds, so a little bit lighter than some of the other guys that we've talked about so far, but he really does bring the power. He brings the tenacity and the nastiness to his run blocking in particular that you want to see from a Pittsburgh Steelers center. He's got Yinzer written all over him. He grew up in Pennsylvania, and last year, 74.5 Pro Football Focus grade, pretty darn good. That's top 10 among college centers last year. So Zach Frazier, absolutely worth a day 2 pick, in my opinion. He's going to be a day 1 starter in the league, and although I wouldn't necessarily put him on the same level as a Jackson Powers-Johnson or Graham Barton, I do think Zach Frazier would be an incredible value for the Pittsburgh Steelers in round 2. Let's say you get a Talisi Fuaga or an Amarius Mims or something along those lines at offensive tackle in round 1, and then Zach Frazier is waiting for you there in round 2. That is kind of my ideal setup for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL draft this year. I think Zach Frazier would be a perfect fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward, and I'd love to see him in black and gold moving forward. Then another guy that I think would be a really good fit on day 2 for the Steelers, Cedric VanPren out of Georgia. And we've talked about VanPren a lot on the channel. I've picked him a lot in my Steelers mock drafts. Kind of a taller guy here, 6'4", 310 pounds. Maybe a little bit lighter than like a Jackson Powers-Johnson, but man, that Pro Football Focus grade, pretty darn good, 8th in the country, all right? And then you look at the profile here. What I really like about Cedric VanPren on film is his ability to get off the snap extremely quickly, all right? Some guys, they snap it and they take a little bit to really get going. But when it's VanPren under center, man, he snaps it and he is gone. That's exactly what Arthur Smith is looking for in his starting center. So I really like Cedric VanPren as a potential starting option for the Pittsburgh Steelers on day 1. And listen, I think the ideal situation is that he's here in the 3rd round for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, are the Steelers going to be willing to gamble on getting their starting center in round 3? I don't know about that. They do have 2 third-round picks, and they could even package those third-round picks to trade up for a center if they really need to. But I would say at this point, I'm definitely expecting the Steelers to take a center at some point in either round 1 or round 2, because at this point, this is a need that just simply cannot be left unattended in this year's NFL draft. And then somebody that I would also accept as a potential option for the Steelers, and somebody that I do think is going to be a starter day 1 in the National Football League, and that's Bo Limmer out of Arkansas. Round 3 grade here, so he's not on the same level as the top 4. All right, I would much rather have the guys in the top 4 personally. But you look at the size here, 6'5", so that's pretty tall for a center, 307 pounds, a pretty decent Pro Football Focus grade last year at 74.5. And listen, man, he's not going to be like the best center prospect out there, in my opinion. He's a little bit undersized. And, you know, the thing that I like about Limmer, though, is that he holds his own in pass protection. He went up against Tavondre Sweat, arguably the most unstoppable nose tackle in this year's NFL draft, one-on-one at the Senior Bowl. And did he lose some reps? Yes, he did. He got posterized on a couple of them. But he held his own on a lot of other reps, and that really impressed me because there was really no other centers that were able to do that other than Jackson Powers-Johnson. So Bo Limmer is somebody that I would take in round 3 as kind of like a plan D or a plan F here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do think that you'd probably want to get one of the top 4 because you don't want to be down to your last starting capable center in round 3. But listen, if it comes down to that and you have to take a center in round 3, I think the worst case scenario here is you take Bo Limmer out of Arkansas. Might be a little bit of a reach in round 3 for some teams, but the Steelers need to address this, and I do think Bo Limmer can hold his own in the National Football League in year 1. But when it comes to the top 4 guys on my list, which one would you rather have the Steelers go and get? Would you rather go out and get Jackson Powers-Johnson or Graham Barton in round 1? Or would you rather have Zach Frazier or Cedric VanPren in round 2? Type JPJ for Jackson Powers-Johnson, GB for Graham Barton, ZF for Zach Frazier, or SVP for Cedric VanPren. My name is Jack Sperry. I'm the host of Steelers Talk here from Chat Sports, and I'm also one of the leading NFL draft analysts here at Chat Sports. I put up a bunch of NFL draft stuff on my Twitter as well as daily Steelers updates on my Twitter. So if that interests you, make sure you guys go give me a follow on X/Twitter at Jack_Sperry. Really do appreciate your support. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because if breaking news hits or whatever the case may be, we're going to have you guys covered with a breaking news video right here on Steelers Talk. Later today, Coop and I will be going live for Steelers Talk live here on Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every single week. So if you want to come and kick it with your fellow Yinzers every single week, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday, make sure you join us right now and click that subscribe button.